Um, Hi everyone, my name is Helle. Welcome to this video. Today I want to talk to you about rewarding the horses. When I come around and I see people with their horses, I always ask, how do you reward your horse? How do you say yes, thank you? I think it's very important that when we work with them, we find the right way of praising them so they feel praised, they feel that they've achieved something from doing the work with us. What often happens is that people are like, oh, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, how do you say thank you to your horse? You're working on something and you want to do this job, and finally you get some part of the message through to your horse and you're really starting to understand each other. So how do you say thank you to your horse at that particular moment so he feels more enthused about doing it again? And then people go, oh, but I talked to him. Cool. Anything else? And they go, well, yeah, I pat him. I was like, okay, anything else? Well, yeah, sometimes I use my voice mainly, and then I pat him, and, well, yeah, that's it. So, I think we're missing a very, very, very important part here. I think what's happening is, well, to me, horse training has to be effective. Effective not in the way that we have to do as much as possible, but the fact that when I'm working with a horse, I want it to feel comfortable and I want it to be motivated for working with me. And that part of the motivation is it has a lot to do with how I can make that horse feel, I reckon, for doing that kind of job with me. Because I think it's very important to think about the fact that when I'm having fun, my horse is doing a job. Hopefully I can get him to feel, I don't know if a horse can have fun, but maybe they can have a good time. Maybe they can feel good for sure. I want to get to that point where he's motivated for doing stuff with me. To do that, there's the modern learning theory that has proved many times, and a lot of people know that they show more behavior when the pressure is released, or when they obtain some, I gotta think of the wording now in English, when they obtain a benefit, like if you give them a treat or you do something that they really like. A lot of people think that horses like to be patted as in this motion, on the horse's shoulder, on the horse's neck or something. And when I was in riding school when I was a kid, one place I was, after lesson, all the students had to ride into the middle of the arena and stop to get off. And before we got off the horses, we had to pat him, again this motion on the neck of the horse, and pat him as much as we reckoned he had been good today. Wow. These horses were like, all the kids just hammering along on these horses' necks. They didn't spook or anything, they weren't scared or anything, and horses should never be scared of the clapping motions around them and stuff. But I think it's a very misunderstood thing that people think that the horse reckons it's nice. If you take a foal and you start doing that on it, I'm pretty sure it's going to be scared to death. To me, that's evidence enough that you shouldn't be doing this to your horse when you really, like, you can do it, but if you're really doing a good job and you want your horse to do more of it and you really want to praise him for that, it's such a bummer to do this, because he's not going to take it in as, oh yeah, I really want you to do that to me again. He's not going to do that. He's going to be, well, okay, so she's doing that thing again. One thing you could do is teach him that this means that you're happy But if you're not going to spend that time doing that, it's just much easier not to do this. So today we're going to talk about what to do instead. The release of pressure is very important, of course, to think about not like when you've made a signal, like the pressure thing is also another thing to consider. The next thing I see in people is that I say, okay, so we release the pressure when the horse is doing something that we want to have more of. And they're like, yeah, sure thing. And then people think of it as a physical pressure, but it's not really, is it? Like it can be, of course it is as well, but it's more of a, it's basically anything you do, like take the pressure away, like your body language, your physical signal. If it was only physical, you wouldn't be able to do liberty work with horses. So the pressure is where the horse feels pressure, not where you feel it. It's where the horse feels pressure. Some horses are very subtle, very gentle. They'll feel pressure just when you look at them or when you're close to them or something. So you got to work that out for every horse to take off that pressure when they do whatever you want to build on. And then there's the benefits of a good treat, or instead of the clapping, the patting, just a nice soft stroke, or even better, a good scratch where they like to be scratched. And that's the key point to this. It's where the horse likes to be scratched. And I'll show you some examples in a little bit, in a minute, on how to work that out. So basically, you're probably with me on all that. I think what I find is people have ways of doing things. I have ways of doing things as well. And I have this very bad habit. We all have, like, we're creatures of habits. We all have that. I used to have, my old horse was an Appaloosa mare. She was a very, very gentle soul. And I love this horse to death. She's not here anymore, unfortunately. But she was a horse that, when I first got her, I couldn't catch her. I got her cheap. You know, she had that issue to her that she was hard to catch, amongst other things. We worked that out really quick. It wasn't a problem. And then a bit down the road, all of a sudden, she started not wanting to get caught again. Like, she would come up to me in the paddock between all these other horses, and she'd see me and I could call out her name and she'd come walking towards me. And by the time she was like, I don't know, 10 meters away from me, she'd stop and she'd just be circling around me, or she'd be walking up, kneeling all the way up to me, and she'd turn around and walk away again, and she would just be standing there a little way away, but it was really hard to get to really grab her. Of course, I could always say to her, look, now I need to get you, and she'd do it. But it made me wonder, and it seemed that the first thing I did was, when I went up to my horse, I have this thing about horses having stuff in their eyes. That's just my thing. A horse having stuff in their eyes, I need to clean it. It's just really bad for me. And what happened is that when I had this horse, every time she'd come up to me in the paddock, I put her halter on, and the first thing I did was to clean these eyes out. She didn't like that. So she was like, well, I want to come, but I don't want you to poke my eyes. So she was sort of just trying to get a message through to me. And I stopped doing that, and we fixed the problem. So what I did instead was I gave her a good rub when she came. She had some good spots on her. I got all that done, and then I went on to clean the eyes. And it really worked well. And I think it's very important that like, you can sit and think, well, yeah, maybe I'm not rewarding my horse in the perfect way. And if I don't, well, yeah, I'll get better at it. And if I don't get better at it, well, this is always, yeah, doesn't matter that much. But it does matter, actually. because what matters is that your horse might actually think of it as, well, as what you call a punishment. And a punishment sounds hard or harsh, but it could just be a little thing like that. When I was cleaning my horse's eyes out from that thingy, which was basically just a stroke on both eyes, she was like, that's not nice, so I'm not going to keep doing what you're asking me to. So if I have this really nice horse and I'm working on something and it's finally doing something that we've been working on, I really want to motivate him to do more of it because it's really important, and I pat him, like clapping on him, on his neck, and he doesn't find that nice, it could actually do the opposite. It could lower his motivation. And that's just a silly thing. Like, if you can avoid that, you should be avoiding it all the time, as much as possible. So instead, it's very important to work out, where does your horse want to be rubbed or scratched or stroked? If it has any places where it doesn't like it, be objective to the situation. If you see places where it seems that he's pulling away a bit, don't do it. Just find the good spots by all means, and remember to release the pressure. And the pressure is probably the most important thing here, because you always do that. And I think that if you do one but forget the other one, like especially if you're rubbing him but you don't release the pressure, you're just basically teaching him that pressure is something that he shouldn't be concerned about, and he should enjoy being rubbed. So that'll make a whole other series of issues and problems down the road. You don't want to go there either. So release pressure, find a good spot to be rubbed, and be aware of places not to rub your horse if he thinks it's not nice. So what I want to do is, I want to talk to you a little bit about this little horse. Do we have it in the camera? Yes? This horse is from Spain. Her name is Broma. Her owner is Nana, and Nana's coming into the picture shortly. Good. How long have you had her? 2 weeks? 11, 12 days. Yeah. And when she came from Spain through a horse dealer, and she was very scared. Not wild, but green. You couldn't lead her, and you couldn't touch her. So Nana's been spending a lot of time with her, and now she's comfortable around people, but she shows it pretty well. The whole thing about what happens when you're rubbing a horse and when you're clapping on it or patting on it. So I reckon if Nana wants to go do a little bit of work with her, we can start looking at the way to touch her all over. So I'm just going to step up here. Yeah. So Broma is 4 years old. We don't know anything about her apart from that. And what Nana's been doing is, we got her and we put her in a stall inside. Normally we wouldn't do that because all the horses are outside, but we needed to get this young lady acquainted with people. So she's been inside, and for the first 3 days or something, Nana didn't do anything but stay outside of the stall and just basically wait for her. Really just sharing spaces and getting used to the fact that Nana was hanging around. And eventually she'd come up and grab something nice, a treat from Nana, and just getting acquainted. So as you can see, Broma is quite okay with Nana touching her everywhere. We've done this a lot of times, and we've done it with the rope on and stuff, and she's a very nice young horse. She has the spot on on the tail, and she has a spot on the neck as far as I remember. Is that right, Nana? Maybe you can find that spot where she wants to be rubbed. So Nana's just using a flat hand all the time and just trying to imitate the motions that horses may be doing with each other, like she's touching her, she's not fiddling about. Bromo's not in doubt that she's there. And also, of course, she's paying attention to the horse. And at the moment, everything is nice and quiet. Yeah. So, yeah. So you see her head is starting to come around a little bit now, and she's making stuff with her nose, and now she's rubbing on Nana. So this is all very good. She likes that. You've seen that 100 times on horses. I'm sure you know where to rub your own horse. These are the good spots. So if Nana goes in now, like in a little while, and she starts like clapping on her instead, as is the normal stuff. Yeah, did you see that? Nana, maybe you can come to the other side so we can see it. So Nana's rubbing her now and getting all friendly, and Broma's just nice and relaxed. See if you can find that good spot, if there's a spot on this side, please. Did she have something under her neck or? Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice place. So they're getting all friendly now. So we should really, I'm sure none of you would disagree that this is what the horse likes, eh? We have a pretty good picture here of a horse saying, yep, I like that, you can do more, I'm all good. And when Anna feels comfortable and then she could start just patting her on the same spot that she's actually, dogs, come on. So when you're comfortable, you can try and swap and just pat her. So, good, yeah, and stop again, good. So, I hope you noticed the fact that she was comfortable. As soon as Nana started patting her, like clapping with her hands, changed that motion, on the same particular spot where the horse liked being rubbed, the horse started backing. Nana didn't stop the clapping, she kept going just in a soft way until Broma stopped, because she didn't want to teach her to move away, to get scared of that. But it just tells us that it's not a friendly thing. To a horse, this horse has been very green, not wild, but green, and had very little experiences with people. So I reckon this is a pretty awesome horse to show the fact that it hasn't been trained in any way. So yeah, let's not do all the clapping if we can avoid it. So you might have a horse where you say, well, my horse doesn't move away from the clapping, it's okay, and you know, you might even say that he likes it, but I still think it's just something they've become accustomed to. They've been habituated to it, I think you'd say in English. So they're getting used to the fact that you're clapping on them, but they won't still see it as like a really good motivator. They might just say, oh, well, it's just something, you know. And I'm just thinking it's a waste of your time if you don't really get more motivation from it. Jessie, come, go away, please. Yes. Then you should look at doing something else. So right now with this young horse, Nana can scratch it and do like rub it and stuff all over the body, because she's only doing groundwork. And of course that's a lot easier. So if you're riding, this becomes a bit of a problem, because you're not going to get off your horse every time it does something nice and rub it on the tail. But for now, this is still a very, very good place to be. And then of course you have the pressure, the release from the pressure you should be working with all the time, and just give it some breaks and do some nice stuff. there'll be multiple places that your horse likes to be rubbed, and there will even though it doesn't go as far as Broma did in this case, to really surrender herself and enjoy it, just the fact that you have a soft hand, that you're patting the horse like in a nice even flow, and not clapping on it, is going to make one big difference. One big difference to the horse. So yeah, I think that's pretty good for what we want to show with Broma.